Most people don't know what's holding them back, but you do because you listen to me, Sam, your self-care guru and journal junkie. Welcome to Journal Entries, your safe place where you can tune in weekly to get tips, tricks, and journal prompts to uncover your feelings, gain clarity, and make your move. Hello. Welcome back to Journal Entries. Today we're talking about why time management tips don't work for moms. I truly believe that traditional time management advice fails moms. I'm not even going to go into this, but the very first thing that comes to me when I say that is that most time management tips come from books, like these traditional personal development books that were written long ago by men that did not have the same responsibilities as women. And there are more personal growth books now that are written by women. I actually just read one by Kate Northrup called Do Less. I do like that book, but even still, there are so many people sharing advice out there with tips that just don't support actual working busy moms. And so today we're going to break down why these don't work for real mom life and what does. Here are the common tips that I believe ignore mom reality, like moms that are in the trenches, waking up and in mom mode, getting the kids ready for school, and then going to work themselves, and then coming home and trying to decompress for the day, along with decompressing their kids, and then making dinner and going through bedtime routine, and then doing it all over again without nannies and tons of support. These tips are things like, oh, just wake up earlier, get up at 5 a.m., be a part of the 5 a.m. club. And I will say, I'm guilty of this. I once had a message thread on Facebook called the 5 a.m. Club. So I've tried all of these things. So the 5 a.m. Club, this didn't work for me because I always felt guilt when I overslept. And then I paired it with this next tip of time blocking. This does work for some people, just like waking up at 5 a.m. works for some people. I have a friend who wakes up at 4:30 and that works for her. Time blocking works for some people. But for me, I felt like I had to stick to those time blocks, which is like you just on your calendar block off certain chunks of time for certain activities. But I felt like I had to stop once that block ended, and I didn't want to. Or I would feel behind if I missed something, and I would then slip into this like all or nothing mindset of like, oh, I'm over this time. I can't do the next thing because I won't have enough time to do it. And just strict routines. People are still saying like, oh, just be strict with yourself. You have to be disciplined. And that just does not feel good for me. Again, these things work for some people and even some moms. But this episode is not for those moms. This episode is for the moms that are hearing that advice, probably trying that advice, and it's not working. And you probably think it's you. You're judging yourself for not being able to wake up at 5 a.m. You're judging yourself for not having enough discipline. You're judging yourself for not being able to do what it is that you think you need to be able to do. And you think that you don't have enough time, when in reality, it's not a one-size-fits-all. And all of these tips make us feel even worse about ourselves, physically and emotionally. We talk a lot about this inside Emotionally Empowered, not directly as time management, but through various journal prompt flows where we are acknowledging how we are feeling on a daily basis and what it is that we need on a daily basis. And then we even get into some prompts of how have we not been listening to what we need? What did we need in the past? It's really insightful. And so if you are looking for that sort of deep dive, consider joining us inside Emotionally Empowered for January only. So expiring January 31st, we have a 7-day totally free trial. So check that out in the link in the show notes. But there are so many things that happen as a mom that makes all of those previous tips that I just mentioned not applicable. Things like kid emergencies, things happen throughout the day where discipline does not apply. You can't make it to that gym session because you had to go pick up your kid from school, or your kid gets sick in the middle of the night, and so you don't want to wake up early because you were up all night, or maybe you have a newborn and you're just operating differently, which is my second point of changing seasons. I feel like moms especially have different seasons where different things need to be prioritized. Are you in the new mom phase, the new mom season? That requires very different emotional support, physical support, and different decisions that go with that than the next phase of being a mom, which is like of toddlers and young kids, and then a little bit older. And then within each of those phases, are you a single mom? Are you a married person with actual support, or a primary parent with not much support? Do you have a village around you? Are you going through relationship struggles? There's so many different features that go into what type of season you are in right now. So really just being aware of that season for you and how time management will look differently based on that season. Next is energy management versus time management. Energy, as you may know, is my word of 2025. What I mean when I say energy is my internal energy. It's my intuition. It's knowing what fuels me, what lights me up, and what drains me. In terms of managing your energy, sometimes we just need more sleep. Last night, the past few nights actually, my son has been getting up at 3:30 in the morning. And I've had my alarm set not for 5 a.m., but for 6:30. And I just have not had it in me to get up at 6:30. And so I have been pressing snooze and snooze and snooze and then just letting my body sleep. And one morning I slept in until 9 a.m. because my son is on Christmas break currently at the time I'm recording this. And I have that flexibility to send him to a sitter a little bit later. And it's totally fine. I know that my body needed more sleep that day. In fact, I've been tracking my sleep just loosely. I don't have any trackers or monitors or anything, but I'm starting to learn that my body needs a solid 8 to mostly 9 hours of sleep. And then after 9 hours, I can wake up and I'm still sleepy, but I'm mostly refreshed after about 9 hours. When my son is waking up in the middle of the night, I don't feel refreshed after 9 hours. I need even longer. So giving yourself that grace of your energy is different every day. Maybe it was that your kid also woke up in the middle of the night, or maybe your kid just was extra whiny and needy, or maybe sick, or just needed more from you that day, and it required more energy from you that day. Irrelevant of time, your energy matters. The way that I incorporate all of this into my daily life so that I don't get pulled into the 5 a.m. club and the guilt that comes with that and the pressure that comes with that is I listen to my body and my intuition. I never used to do that. And now it's the first place that I go to. I try to calm my mind. I try to calm the chatter in my brain, and I simply just check in and ask myself, what is it that I need right now? I do this in the middle of the night when I'm trying to decide if I want to wake up early or press snooze. I will say that's a little biased. I almost always want to press snooze, but sometimes I don't. Sometimes I ask myself that question, and I know that I do feel best when I get up before my son. And so there are many mornings where I ask myself that, and I will get up early because I really value that time to journal and have some space to drink my energy drink and maybe do a little bit of work before my son wakes up. I will ask myself and check in throughout my workday. I work from home. And so I have the pleasure of getting to see the mess that my house is throughout the day. And so before picking up Griffin from daycare or the sitter, I will often just check in and say, okay, Sam, what will feel best when I log off today? Or what will feel best when I come home with Griffin and pick him up? what type of energy and environment do I want to walk into? Sometimes I just keep working and I just want to get more done off my plate, and that feels best. Sometimes I end work a little bit early so that I can go do dishes or pick up a little bit because that feels like it would be best for me. And that's how I manage my time and all of the things on my to-do list. But let's get into 3 specific ways that you can create your own intuitive schedule. I'm loving the way this episode is coming out. I don't really talk about intuition too much, yet I feel like it's something that I've been so much in tune with and something that's really been guiding me. So I hope that you really are going to love this. After I share these 3, I will give you some journal prompts and exercises as well. So the first strategy is energy mapping. What this is instead of planning your day by the clock in time management, map it to your natural energy flows. What I mean by this is I know that I am my sharpest, most energized physically right after school drop off. So that is when I tackle my most important work calls or the most important things that I have to do that day. And on my to-do list, I prioritize, like, if I got 1 thing done today or 2 things done, what would those 2 things be where I would feel proud? And that's what I do first at that time. I also know that by 4 p.m., I'm in mom mode. That's when I leave to go pick up my son. I am not really on social media after that. I'm not texting people. I'm not much of anything after 4 p.m. And that's okay. That's how my energy works. So know where your energy is. And I'll give you a journal prompt for that in a second. The second strategy is flexible blocking, not necessarily time blocking. So rather than those rigid time slots, create looser chunks of time. My morning chunk is getting us out the door. And some days that's smooth sailing by like 8:30-ish. I have the luxury to drop Griffin off later right now. But other days we are scrambling. And lately it's been like 9:30 that we are getting in the car calmly and not rushed, but still just later than I would like. And instead of stressing about the exact timing, I just know that that chunk of time is for my morning routine and daycare drop off. I blocked off the whole time. And if it's a smooth sailing morning and we're out of the door early, I just have that much extra time for myself. But if it takes the full time, that's okay too. Within flexible blocking, you can create categories for yourself. So for you, it might be morning routine or what I call work block or kid time, self-care time. The key here is to have a flow without exact times or exact things to do within that time. When I was testing out time blocking, I was writing down specific activities to do at specific times. And that's where I started self-sabotaging and going crazy and perfectionism mode, all in or all out, and just not doing anything. And it was because I felt like I had to do that thing at that time, and I was going over or under time, and I just got in my head about it. And now it feels so much better because I have what I call work block. And it's set for each day is a little bit different, but it's usually anywhere from 1 to 3 hours. And during that time of work block, I then go to my list of my work activities and I get to choose what I want to do during that time. I also have a block called personal block, and I get to choose from my personal activities what I want to do. I was on a saboteur call with my client Jess, and we were talking about how she's going to be trying time blocking as a way to manage her school as well as how present she wants to be as a mom. And the biggest fear that came up for her was that she won't have enough personal time because she's going to be going from one to the other. And immediately I said, well, plan in me time and buffer time. That way you can decompress in between each time slot. Lastly, give yourself permission to pivot. Build in that buffer time, like I just mentioned, and expect interruptions. I swear, I set such low expectations for myself, but it's so beneficial. I almost always exceed it, so that feels nice. But especially when things happen and I get interrupted, I'm not thrown nearly as often. So view schedule changes and interruptions as responses rather than failing and like, oh, I didn't stick to it. An example of this for me is like when my son is having a rough day, or recently when he was sick impromptu and was home for 3 days, I can pivot my work block to evening when he's asleep, or I can call my aunt over and have him watch him for a little bit while I work a little bit later and just kind of move things around more flexibly. And I don't view that as getting off track. It's just being more responsive with what my family, Griffin and I, need at the time. So here are some quick journaling exercises for you. Grab your journal or open the notes app of your phone, Google Docs, whatever you have, and jot these down and answer them later. It'll take maximum 5 minutes. First, when do you naturally feel most energized? And when do you naturally feel most drained? When do you lose steam? Second, what current time blocks feel most stressful in your day? Or if you're not time blocking or have specific times throughout your day that feel stressful, which I feel like you probably do, but are you trying to stick to any specific time management tip that feels stressful, that just isn't working, that you've been judging yourself, that you feel stress around? Third, if you gave yourself permission to rework your schedule based on your energy and intuition instead of time, what do you think would change? And keep an open mind with that one. Last but not least, what would it feel like to approach your day with flexibility instead of rigid rules? I really want you to play that one out. It would be easy to just answer that one and say, oh, it would feel nice. But I want you to think through your day and think about waking up, maybe sleeping in a little bit, and then allowing yourself that flexible block where you get to choose what you want to do within that hour or 2 hours in the morning. That gives you that much flexibility, and you won't have the pressure of rushing out the door. Imagine never feeling like you're rushing out the door because you give yourself that much time to work with your energy and the energy of your families as well. And then imagine going about your workday with flexibility, coming home and doing bedtime routine with a more flexible schedule. Imagine not having too much stress around that bedtime routine. How crazy and awesome and beautiful of an experience would that be? I want to end with, if you've been feeling like nothing is working and you have no time and you feel like you're just not able to follow through on these things, it's not the system and the time management tip, and it's not you, because it does work for some people and it doesn't work for other people. What it is that we need to turn up the volume on our inner voice to know what's best for us, and then play around with different things until we hit that routine and habit that feels right in this season. I hope that you found this helpful. If you did, please rate and leave a review, or at the very least, share this on your socials and tag me. And just a reminder that the 31st of January is the last day to get the 7-day free trial to the journaling membership, Emotionally Empowered. So click the link in the show notes if you want to learn more about that membership and join us inside. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's journal entry. I love connecting with my listeners, so make sure you screenshot this episode and tag me on Instagram at samantha.s.says so I know you're listening. And don't forget to grab your free training and journal prompts at www.samanthapenkoff.com/podcast.